PNG, we're talking about utterly disgusting. When we talk about PNG, we're talking about a country in which over 40% of the population live beneath the internationally recognised poverty line of $2.15 a day. A whopping 67.7% live below what's recognised as, I couldn't believe this is the middle class poverty line of $3.65 a day. And this is how our government is encouraging their young people to dig their country out of this massive generational poverty that's been the state of PNG.
Now, all of you might have seen this, like the Sky News Australia. The video is going around viral around Papua New Guinea, and the announcer said something related to Papua New Guinea. Now, what she is saying, it's true, it's fact, it's based on statistics, and that's true. There are more concerns and there are more issues in our countries to fix than focusing on certain areas when aid or like scholarship is focusing on certain areas. But at the same time, if you look, education is one of the most important things that lift people out of poverty. That's why Australian government is investing money in education to make students, be educated, get better, help develop their country and help bring their own people out of poverty. Having said that, the lady is also very biased in some of the things that she said. And one of the important factors that she missed is most of the time, these international formulas that are created to calculate the poverty, measurement of poverty in the countries, usually they are based on certain things like education, food, shelter, livelihood, things like this. They are calculated based on these things. Accessibility to services. Now, based on these things, it's very true that our country lags behind a lot of these human index development things. And what she's saying is true. It's based on statistics. It's not to get mad for her. This is actually the fact what is happening in our country. But at the same time, when you look at our country, these statistics calculations do not really show the real picture on the ground. When you talk about poverty and measurement of poverty, there are different kinds of poverty level. In Papua New Guinea, it's not like Australia, where you calculate poverty. In Australia, most of the people live in urban areas. They have access to everything, and they have to spend money to survive. In Papua New Guinea, 80%, remember, see, forget this point, 80% of the population live in rural areas. And this 80% of people do not need $3 a day to live. It's free. Everything is free, completely free. I personally live in Japan. I need more money to live each day because the society, the development, everything in the country requires you to spend money. So in this case, for Australia, you really have to spend money every day to just live in your own country. And in Papua New Guinea, 80% of the people live on the land, live by the land. So that means everything is taken from the land. And like the house, you are living in a free house. You don't have to pay water. You don't have to pay electricity bill. Everything is free, except for services like education, roads, hospital is lacking. But if you talk about the richness of life, time, everything, you are not being enslaved by corporate ideas. You are not being enslaved by capitalism. You have a very richful life living in rural areas. So see, forget this very important point. And coming from Papua New Guinea, I know, if you live in rural areas, there is no need to spend money because there is no need for money. You have the money. There is a need for money when people want to go to the hospital. When people want to travel, they have to pay for the transportation. When people want to buy something. Other than that, each day, you don't need money. You don't need to spend money. You don't need to have $3 to spend money. And if you look at, for example, for a case in Australia, from a house to her job, she has to spend money to go there. She has to spend money for the fuel. If it's traveling on car, she has to spend money for the car every day. And then she has to pay for her lunch. She has to go to eat some, McDonald's or something. She has to pay for lunch or at a restaurant. And then she has to buy groceries and to go back home. So based on this calculation and her lifestyle, she has to spend more than $3 a day, which says that now she is above the poverty line. Just to survive in the country, she has to spend more than $3 a day. But comparing to Papua New Guineans, 80% of us living in rural areas, We don't have to spend kind of money, and there is no need for actually cash to spend such cash like this. The monetary value of life in Papua New Guinea, in the rural areas, is really non-existent because people get everything they need from the land. I think this is the most critical point where C completely misunderstood. And you know something about the Australian media? They always paint this propaganda image of Papua New Guinea. They always try to tell the world that Papua New Guinea is such a country like this. Now, I've been living in Japan for almost 5 years, and people always tell me news from Papua New Guinea, not from Papua New Guinea media, but mostly from Australian media, only about bad news, tribal fighting, all this stupid negative news comes straight from Australia. And this also raises a very important question. Our government should make a law to protect our country from Australian media, to paint our, to make more propaganda of our situations, to make it just worse, to exaggerate it. And you know, these Australian media people, they don't travel to Papua New Guinea. They get news from somewhere, from some sources, and then they write and they, they make it more like, in Papua New Guinea we'll say Edim Suga, and they make it more worse. So we have to really, the information, what type of information that we give to Australians, we have to control and stop. And we have to let the Australian media get published news from government sources only, controlled, and not from whoever or whomever they want. Now, if we really want to show our image to the world, we have to control the Australian media, control the information that we provided to the Australian media, because these are the people who are making propaganda and like just destroying our country with so many, negative news. So yeah, we have to think of it. We have to really think about it.